working with professionals. Language is a powerful tool to connect or isolate us from one another. In family core, each model, legal, social, medical, has their own language, and so it can really help to build a sense of familiarity and connection if you speak the same language. This can be easily achieved by understanding how schemas work. Those of you who are old enough might remember the game Mallet's Mallet. It's a word association game where you say one word and the other person has to respond with an associated word. This is a physical representation of a schema. So water, you think ice, then cold, then fridge, then food, and on and on. So you end up a long way away from the original word. So how does this knowledge help you? Well, your ex has probably fired off an abuse schema, which triggers some word associations: angry, controlling, bullying. And we've talked about how your behaviour can rewrite the narrative, but now it's time to trigger a more positive narrative for you to, through your choice of words. So using the welfare checklist, the impact assessment framework and the comment assessment framework triangle, it's now time to start making some lists of the words that they have used, i.e. risk, rejected, aggressive, and then using a thesaurus, start to make a list of associated words. And I've started that off for you in your workbook. The reason this is important is you need to understand what's going on in someone's head. So when you hear the word risk, what they're meaning is danger, exposure, hazard, liability. Again, you can use these as well. If you want to talk about risk, these are some words that you can use. Rejected, so for abandonment, that you can start using some of those words, and aggressive. So I now want you to go through any conversations that you've had with your ex, text messages, emails, whatever. What are some of the words that they've used to describe you? Then go to a thesaurus, an online thesaurus, and write down some of the words that are similar to that. So it can give you an idea of an overall schema of what happens when someone uses those words. And also give you a really good idea of what they're going to put in their reports as well. Now we're going to shift into changing the narrative. So we want to think about some positives. So what's the opposite of risk? So again, I've provided some examples for you. So certainty, safety, security, for example. And I've done the same for rejected and aggressive as well. So you want to be starting to think about what are some positive words that you can use to change the narrative. So when they're thinking, or when they've used the word angry, what's an opposite word of that you can start using to describe yourself and also how you're going to act as well? So now you're going to have a really comprehensive list of words which are going to trigger some positive schemas, build a familiarity between you and them, and also to describe yours and your ex's behaviour. And you can use these in written or verbal statements, as well as a guide as to how to behave and not behave. And you will, of course, be given the opportunity to ask questions. And whilst it can be tempting to sling mud, it's important that you question in an appropriate, assertive, respectful way to counter that false narrative. And so what I've provided you with is some examples of how to question in an assertive style. So start thinking about some questions that you might have for your ex's counsel or for your ex themselves. How can you, using this template, how can you ask them in a different way? So think about how you what you want to ask. How can you ask it in a more assertive way? Finally, we trust people who we think are like us. We're quite egotistical like that. This is how abusers are so good at winning people over, because they're chameleons and they adapt to their audience. Therefore, building rapport with the professionals is your response to this. Rapport essentially means a close and harmonious relationship in which the people or groups concerned understand each other's feelings or ideas and communicate well. That's from the Oxford English Dictionary. And you can understand and easily see why this is important, because you want them to understand you and you want your statements to be truly heard. So again, I've provided you with some examples of how to build rapport quickly. I suggest that you just have a think, start practice with your friends, so that it becomes more natural to you, and see the impact that it has on some of those interactions that you have. Do it with a stranger in the shop. Try it with someone when you're just out and about. Like I say, try it with friends, family. See how they respond back to you. You should start noticing that there's a feeling of more closeness, more clarity, and more understanding between you.